So you bought or you built a 4x4 that you're really proud of. You've accumulated tools and spare parts for your rig. You've watched countless of videos of 4x4 runs on YouTube. And now you're ready for the trail, right? In your mind, you know everything there is to know, right? But do you? Attending an organized 4x4 run isn't a free-for-all with no rules. And you might quickly find out that you weren't really as prepared for a run as you thought. Maybe you didn't have the proper equipment with you. Maybe you didn't understand trail etiquette and had problems with the people you were running with. Or maybe you just didn't get along well with the group. In this video, I'll teach you how to be prepared and about etiquette on the trail when running with a large group. Once you get confident and experienced, I'll show you how to plan your own runs and become a trail master yourself. In this lesson, we'll discuss the necessary equipment requirements to join any organized run, and these are the bare minimum requirements. Number one, you need a 4x4 vehicle in good working order with a low range transfer case. Number two, you need a roll bar or some type of factory hardtop. Number three, you need functioning seat belts for all occupants. Number four, you need a spare tire and the jack and tools to use it. Or if you're a little bit more experienced with trail repairs, something like glue tread and plugs with the knowledge of how to use those will work in lieu of a spare tire. Number five, you need attachment points front and rear with a shackle or D-ring secured to the frame or the bumper. Tow balls are not safe attachment points, so don't plan on using those. Number six, you need a tow or recovery strap rated for at least 2 times the weight of the vehicle, and that strap needs to have loop ends, basically no metal hooks on the ends. Number seven, you need to bring plenty of water and a snack. Number eight, you should bring a first aid kit and a flashlight. I would say a good percentage of day runs, if somebody breaks down, it'll turn into a night run, so make sure you have a flashlight too. Number nine, and this is very important, toilet paper and a small shovel for potty time. You don't want to leave white flowers laying all over the trail when you're out there. So, bring toilet paper so you can take care of yourself, but also bury that toilet paper. Don't just leave it sitting on the side of the trail. And ladies, you're the worst about this. And finally, number 10, you need a method of inflating tires after you air down or maybe you lose a bead on the trail. And this could be an air compressor or a CO2 tank. And also along those same lines, you're going to need a tire gauge. In addition to the necessary equipment to join a run, the 10 items I just discussed, here's some highly recommended equipment. Number one, a GMRS radio. If you've been out of the game for a long time, CB radio is basically dead. There's really no clubs or events running CB anymore. I would say 90% of the off-road clubs out there and 90% of the organized events out there right now run GMRS. So it's good to have a GMRS radio in your rig so you can communicate with the rest of the group. Number two, you're going to need, I highly recommend that you bring tools, jumper cables, spare fluids, and common spare parts. And I have a video on that. I believe it's number 3 in this series. Number 3, a winch. Always comes in handy. And number 4, you should probably bring a fire extinguisher with you. You're not gonna be out there putting out forest fires or anything with it, but a small engine fire or maybe somebody's exhaust catches a little bit of brush on the side of the trail on fire, and it's good to have a fire extinguisher handy. So those are the necessary equipment that you need just to join an easy run. As trails get more difficult and challenging, minimum requirements will get more stringent for you. Runs will require minimum tire sizes, lockers, and possibly upgraded axles just as a condition of joining that run. Never join a run that your rig and driving experience are not qualified for. This is considered very disrespectful in the off-road world. The person leading or planning the run is known as the trail master. And the trail master is responsible for keeping the run organized and on schedule. When they post run requirements, please respect those run requirements. Now let's talk about trail etiquette, which is something that most off-roaders have to learn the hard way, but you're not going to have to learn the hard way because I'm going to teach you trail etiquette right now. Before attending a run, be sure that your vehicle meets the requirements laid out by the trail master for that particular run. If the trail master asks for, let's say, a minimum of 33-inch tires in a locker, please do not attend that particular run if you don't meet those requirements. That's very disrespectful. It's unfair if you attend a run with the expectation of everyone else pulling you through obstacles. That's kind of fucked up, which can likely do damage to their vehicles as they tow you around, which, might also cause the run to take many hours longer than it was planned. Even the best built rigs out there are going to get stuck and break down eventually. And this is an accepted part of the off-road experience, but don't be that guy who knows his vehicle isn't up to the task, but he shows up anyway. Just make sure you come prepared. The essence of four-wheeling is self-reliance. Don't rely on others to provide you with what you should have brought on the run. Be prepared for breakage, long delays, and bad weather. Your vehicle also needs to be safe and in really good running order. Check all your fluids, your hoses, belts, brakes, and tires before deciding to join a run, and your lug nuts. If your brakes aren't working well, your engine is misfiring, you're leaking lots of fluid, or your Jeep is overheating, get it fixed before you go, or don't go at all. There's nothing worse than somebody who shows up at the trailhead with a rig that barely runs. When I see that, I cringe. I'll be honest with you, I'm thinking about turning around and doing something else at that point. You also need to understand vehicle spacing on runs. When on a hill or going through an obstacle, wait for the vehicle in front of you to completely clear it before you do it. That vehicle in front of you might need to back up. It may get stuck and need to be recovered, or it may roll over or roll down a hill and take you with it. So sit back until the rig in front of you clears an obstacle. Do not tailgate on the trail. Also, when you're running at night, never shine your off-road lights at the vehicle in front of you. Everybody hates this, and new guys who buy lights instead of lockers always seem to do this crap. But never shine your off-road lights at the vehicle in front of you. And yes, this means that you might not be using your brand new off-road lights at all. Vehicle spacing in the rear is also important. In order to keep the group together and to prevent people from getting lost, it's also important not to lose sight of the vehicle behind you. Use your mirrors often, look behind you, and make sure you have visual confirmation that the vehicle that was behind you is still on the trail. If you do lose sight of a vehicle that's behind you, stop and wait for them to come back into view before you proceed. Also, at turns or forks in the road, always slow down and stop to make sure that the vehicle behind you takes the correct path. You're following the guy in front of you down the correct path, right? So make sure the guy behind you is doing the same thing. But in very large groups in open areas or on Forest Service roads or fire roads, the group might want to spread out due to dust, but you'll still need to stop at forks in the road to ensure that the vehicle behind you stays on the trail. Also, when you're going through tougher obstacles, follow the 3 strikes and you're out rule. All big trail runs should enforce the 3 strikes and you're out rule. In order to keep the pace going with large groups, it's important not to consume too much time trying to conquer one obstacle. Basically, if you fail 3 times to conquer an obstacle, you take a strap or you get winched in order to keep things running, to keep the group going. Of course, with smaller groups of friends, this doesn't matter, and honestly, seeing your buddy getting repeatedly denied on an obstacle is usually the highlight of the day. But with big groups, follow the 3 strikes and you're outlaw. Well, what if you get stuck on the trail? Well, if you get stuck, it's your responsibility to hook up your strap or your winch to a recovery vehicle. Don't expect others to jump into a mud pit to get you out. Sometimes, though, the rig is in a really bad position and others will have to go to your rig and run a winch line or a strap for you. But if you can get out safely and hook up your own rig, it's proper etiquette to do that. And if you're unsure of how to safely hook up a strap or a winch line, and if you're unsure how to safely hook it up, don't be shy. Tell people. You know, we've all started somewhere. But if you're unsure how to safely hook up a strap or a winch line, stop and always ask for help. And once you get unstuck, never drive over the strap or the winch line. People hate that. Recovery lines are very dangerous also, so everyone should be cleared from the area during a recovery. Also, please respect the environment. Don't blaze a new trail if you aren't in an open OHV area. Also, don't litter and always pick up trash if you encounter it. Even if it's other people's trash, always pick it up. And don't disturb wildlife. You know, don't go out in the desert picking up tortoises. Just enjoy the fact that you get to enjoy nature and wildlife in their natural habitat. You know, also avoid driving over dry brush or grass, as this can start a wildfire. If you smoke, keep your damn cigarettes in the ashtray where they belong. If you're camping, make sure you get the appropriate fire permit and follow the instructions on it. And in a lot of areas, you're not allowed to have a fire at all. So please respect those rules. And this is for the ladies out there, don't make white flowers. You know, although women are considered tidier and cleaner than men, they're often pigs on the trail. A white flower is a small bunch of toilet paper on the ground in places where ladies pee. You know, some trails are just littered with these. You know, several trails have been closed because of ladies and their white flowers. And we almost lost the Rubicon Trail because of you ladies and your white flowers. So 0 litter is the best policy. Also, trails are very narrow, usually just wide enough for one vehicle to pass. So right of way is always a big issue on the trail. And just like on the street, you always stay right or pull over to the right to avoid oncoming traffic. And when 2 vehicles meet on a narrow grade or hill, the vehicle traveling uphill always has the right of way. When you're traveling with a group and passing an oncoming vehicle on a narrow trail, the leader of the group should tell the vehicle being passed how many rigs are in their group. And this can be done verbally, you know, roll down your window and talk to them, or it's usually done with hand signs. You know, this would mean there's 4 rigs behind me. And lastly, you need to be courteous to all the other users of these public trails. You know, hikers, mountain bikers, motorcycles, ATVs, snowmobiles, horses, ranchers, farmers, forest rangers, and hunters should all be treated with kindness and respect when you pass them on the trail. When encountering horses in particular, I always pull over, turn my engine off, and I wait for the horses to pass. Also, along these same lines, a lot of public land, ranchers have grazing rights on public land. So always leave gates how you find them. If you find it open, leave it open. If it's closed, go through the gate and close it behind you. Also, obey no trespassing signs. Don't trespass on private property. So that pretty much covers trail etiquette. This chapter is very important and is going to probably decide how much you're going to enjoy running with the group. And lesson 3 is picking the right group to run with. Every different 4x4 group or 4x4 club has a different vibe to it. Some groups are wild and like to party hard, and most real rock crawlers are in this category, honestly. Some groups are religious based and have really strict codes of conduct. Some groups are just social clubs with a lot of members, but very few of them actually off-road. And some groups only do hardcore stuff. These are usually the groups of buggies out there. And some groups are on the opposite end of that spectrum, and they only really do easy runs. Your overlanding type groups would be in that category. Some groups are gun-toting, Coors drinking, shit-kicking cowboys, and other groups are granola eating, IPA sipping, rooftop tent hipsters. Some folks can gel pretty well with all groups, while some people get offended by everything and have to run with a specific type of group. Most hardcore crawlers and buggy guys are cut from the same cloth, and most overlanders are basically cut from their own cloth, but at the opposite end of the spectrum from the rock crawlers. My advice is to research the group you're considering running with. Social media lets you do a pretty easy investigation of the group's vibe, or you could show up to one of their meet and greets and kind of gauge the crowd, or just find one of their members and kind of ask them what the group's about. So by now, you've watched all my 4x4 tips video series, and you're an expert, right? You know everything there is to know about off-roading now. So maybe it's time for you to organize your own runs. But let me give you some advice on doing that. On large runs, things get very unorganized fast. The group gets split up, people get lost, people who need help in the group go unnoticed, noobs end up taking the wrong lines through obstacles, communications break down, and frustration often ensues because of that. But a little bit of planning will go a long way. The person who sets up a run and leads it is known as the trail master. When planning a run, it's the trail master's responsibility to plan the run, pick a meeting place, and establish run requirements. Run requirements are very important to the success of the run because you want all the rigs in the group to be up to the task. Before the run starts, the trail master is responsible for taking account of all the vehicles in the group at the trailhead. So it can be verified that the same number of vehicles get off the trail at the end of the run. Verify the vehicle count with someone else in your group so there's 2 people who know that number. That's very important. Also at the trailhead, determine what radio frequency will be used by the group. The point man and the tail gunner, which is the first and last vehicle, need to have good radios to be able to communicate with each other. With the point man and the tail gunner in constant communication, the group will be cohesive and no one will accidentally get left behind or lost. Large groups will almost always experience one or more mechanical problems in the group. And when this happens, the point man is immediately reached by radio and instructed to stop the group so trail repair can be performed. It's often good to pull the resources of the group together to fix a problem more efficiently. But sometimes damage is really bad and is going to require many hours of work. And in this instance, the trail master might leave a small capable group behind to handle the situation and continue guiding the rest of the group through the trail. There's no reason to have 30 rigs sitting idle for 5 or 6 hours while one vehicle gets fixed. So splitting the group is often the best option in that situation. There'll also be times when a vehicle is broke down so bad that it's not recoverable due to lack of parts or trail conditions that make a tow impossible. And this might require the vehicle to be abandoned on the trail and recovered at a later time. Regardless of mechanical issues, no one will be left behind to fend for themselves. But if you're not prepared for a major breakdown and it happens, just understand that you might have to get your belongings, jump into somebody else's vehicle, and abandon your vehicle on the trail. It's very common and it happens, and that's why I always preach being prepared. The trail master is going to make the judgment call of splitting the group up, or when the group gets split up, and continuing a run when a vehicle experiences a major breakdown. Nobody likes spending 12 hours on a trail that should have taken your group 3 hours to run. And it's the trail master's responsibility to ensure that the majority of the group gets off the trail in a timely manner. This is a tough and unpopular decision to make, but it is the trail master's responsibility. And, part of off-roading is also getting stuck or denied on an obstacle. It happens to all of us, even the great dog of the desert. With a small group, it's often fun to talk crap as your buddy gets repeatedly denied trying to conquer an obstacle. Unfortunately, this is a bad practice with large groups because it adds hours to the run and increases the likelihood of major breakage on the run. The old school rule of trail runs is 3 strikes and you're out. After 3 tries, if you get denied, you either take the winch or you back off of it and take an easier line. The pace of any trail run is determined by the weak link in the group. And the weak link can be a stock vehicle or, just an inexperienced driver. The trail master must determine or attempt to determine who the weak link is and tailor the pace of the run around that vehicle. I often put my best spotter in the group in front of the weak link to help them out and help things go more smoothly. The trail master also needs to ensure that unnecessary stops are kept to a minimum and that members aren't spending too much time on one obstacle. I've seen people that every time the run stops for anything, they get out of their Jeeps, pull out tables and chairs, and start making sandwiches every time the group stops. And it takes them forever to pack all that crap back up and get going again. And as a trail master, you need to keep those types of people moving, which is often more difficult than it sounds. Some people just aren't motivated to go, and it's just a fact of life. And I hate it, but you got to try to keep them motivated. At the conclusion of the run, when the run's over, the trail master determines a suitable location for the whole group to park and air their tires back up. Unlock their hubs, reconnect their sway bars. And the air up location is usually a place just before you return to the pavement. Or, it could be the staging area where the run started. At the air up spot, the trail master will again take a tally of all the vehicles to ensure that everybody got off the trail safely. It's not a bad idea to also ask everyone how they like the run and maybe get a little bit of feedback. As a trail master of over 30 years, I'm now going to give you some personal advice that I'd like you to take seriously. Don't be an asshole or a trail Nazi on a run that you plan. Some people get a little bit of responsibility and it goes to their head and They think they have some type of power over everybody. But I assure you, you do not have any power. We're all wheeling on public land in our personally owned vehicles on a trail we chose to be on. You have no power or control over anyone, so don't act like you do. We call those people trail Nazis. You know, you can't kick somebody off of a public trail because you don't like them. You know, sure, there's some shitty people out there who just can't control themselves, but you planned the run and you didn't have to invite those people. As the trail master, you're planning and leading the run. If you do a shitty job, people probably won't want to go on your runs anymore. And there's a lot of people, I don't go on their runs because it's usually a clusterfuck. But if you do a great job and get along well with everybody and the run goes smoothly, you'll get the respect of other off-roaders like me, and people will want to attend the runs that you plan. The beauty of the internet is that anyone can plan a run and be a trail master, so don't let it intimidate you. So like wolves, off-roaders often run in packs because there's strength and security in a pack. You know, and as long as all of the members of the pack do their part and get along, a 4x4 run is no different than that. As off-roaders, we regulate our own behavior for the most part. So we canonized our own principles of trail etiquette for safety, organization, and to have some sense of civility out in the wild. There is no formal class that off-roaders take to learn to function as a group on runs. You know, it's something we have to learn from others as we off-road on the trail. And hopefully this video prevents you from having to learn things the hard way and gives you a strong foundation for joining 4x4 runs. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and keep the rubber side down.